covering my mustache. Ha ha! Great rising! Great rising! Merry Christmas, you all! Ha ha! Get your chair, get your mat, line yourself up if you're walking wall to wall. Jump on your bike. Let's start the treadmill. Let's get this quick half walk over with. Ooh, let me move this out the way. Yes, indeed, I'm walking. Oh, yes, indeed, I'm walking. Yes. I'm walking. So yes, be walking. Yes, y'all. Yeah. Hey. Yes, indeed. Almost Emancipation Proclamation Day. Tomorrow, the safe is supposed to be open. I tell you. Anywho, you know what I was thinking this morning? I was going to tell y'all a story before the 5 minutes, because once you hit the 5 minutes, the walk is over with. I worked at the telephone company. I used to call it the Willoughby Plantation. It had to be maybe 50 operators in one room. If coronas had come out then, we'd have all been wiped out. And you had floor supervisors, and then you had management of service. And I was just a little operator. Literally, it was so much pressure for me to pass the test. I had to take volumes. I was a wreck. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat the pressure. My sister had gotten me the chance to work for the telephone company. So the pressure was on, and I passed the test. I started working. Now, they had calls for how long it took you to take a call. You were, and what would they call it? ERAs? It didn't make any sense. Anywho. The lowest ERA, that's what it was, is 23 seconds. So, that means, what, in a minute, 60 minutes, 3 times 60, that person is taking 3 calls in a minute. 3 calls. Then from there, it's like 24 seconds. And this girl, I remember her, she's a Jamaican lady. She was number 1. She was my age. She was number 1. She was hitting all the dots. I was like, to me it was impossible. You had some calls like 411, don't nobody know what I'm talking about too much, where you used to call to get information on where stores was and their phone numbers and stuff. This is long before the internet. And you could call for 411 was information. Then you had like 311 was time. Something 11 was weather. And people used to call, and those were quick calls. You can handle it right away. Give me a phone number for weather. You remember that. And everything else you had to look up. You had to look up. You didn't have course speech. You didn't have anything. And if you got a resident, it was a nightmare. So you were supposed to balance out looking for Maria Martinez on 116th Street. And there is literally thousands of them. So you go up and down. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Brown's was another one. Brown. You go down. Some didn't want their address listed. Some didn't want their first name listed. You could list their last, because all was by last name. A lot of stuff. So, I was almost getting threatened all the time, every day, all the time. And I think the lowest, and they gave me some kind of congratulations for that, was 28 seconds. And I literally went home and passed out, okay? That's how exhausting it was. But as time went on, I wanted to know about this person who was able to do a call for information 23 seconds. Who can take Jose Gonzalez in Manhattan, thousands, and find them and have it balance out. Ooh, we're 5 minutes already. This quick walk is almost over. So I said to myself, I gotta get close to this one. She's a number one. What is she doing? She get all these bonuses, she get all the accolades, name, picture, all this. What is she doing? So I said, alright. I said, okay, let me go ahead. So I started hanging out with her at lunch. We got a chance. We went out. I got to know she's a single mother. She had a kid. She's in school. And we used to hang out together. I would smoke. She would do her smoke. And she the one that taught me how you could smoke and eat at the same time. Because we only had a half hour. we had 3 elevators. And at lunchtime in that whole building, literally hundreds of people went to lunch at the same time. I want to say thousands. The place was so huge. And so you had like maybe 6 elevators. But when you're putting everybody out to lunch at 12 o'clock, so by the time you got downstairs, some people didn't even leave. That was the whole thing. They didn't want you to leave. They didn't have a concession on your floor. You couldn't go into a break room and go to a machine and buy anything if you didn't bring your food with you. Screw you. There was a cafeteria on the floor, I think the 3rd floor. But like I said, the building was always packed, so even for you to hit the cafeteria, it would be a long line and you only had a half-hour lunch. So I started going and hanging out with her. And finally, after she and I talked, I gained her trust, and she said, no, I asked her, how are you getting 23 seconds of phone call? I tried time and time again. I memorized so many things. I mean, my head was full. I didn't have to go and look. I could just pull it out my brain, man. Just pull it out my brain. And still, 27 seconds was the closest I could get. So one day I remember we didn't have no place where we could go for lunch outside around the building. So we would go and literally stand in doorways. Hallways, doorways. They had no place for us to stand. So I said, please tell me. I tried so hard. I could not get down to 23 seconds. It all averages out. It's your average for the day. I haven't been able to average out the 23 seconds. She said because she ain't hanging up on people. I was blown away. I was like, well, no, we're not supposed to hang up on people. We get fired for hanging up on people. We're supposed to keep on until we can find what they're looking for or transfer them to a supervisor, and she said, no, hang up on him. So now, the management of service that I told you about, remember there's operators, supervisors on the floor, and management of service that sat with headsets on and listen to operators, allegedly, all day long. And if they caught you hanging up, cursing out, or offending a caller, an information caller, 411 caller, you would be put on these steps. 5 steps, you're fired. 3 steps, you're suspended. And say if the management of service, which is called MLS, had a day and she was listening to you, or she had it into you because y'all had a run-in, you was making it to that 5th step. Because I found out they also got bonuses when they fired you. That's how plentiful operators were. That when the management of service fired you, they got bonuses. So their object was to find you. You hang up, you curse anybody out, whatever, because they get money. So, next time we're at lunch, I'm like, how do you do that? They are always on you. She said, no. She said, she said, you come in and you get the chair that faces the management of service desk, where you can see her sitting in front and what she's doing at the computer, how she's moving. She said, when your calls come in, what you do, you glance back and forth and see if she's with you, and you'll be able to tell whether she is listening to your call or not. Now, there's like 50, 75 operators. She has a lot to listen to. So I go home, I'm like, really? She said, yeah. You can tell when they go on you, and you can. Because it was another day, we used fish, microfiche. So it would say clunk, 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 and you would have to do something. And she would have to follow that with you. It worked. So I said, okay, I said, wow. So one weekend, I went in, and I sat just where she told me to sit. And I watched her. I watched what she was doing when I was doing it. And then the supervisor came over, and because when you came out, the supervisor had to go in because and someone had to be answering the phone all the time. And she said, the must wants to see you. So that's never management of service. Never a good sign. So I go to the front and I sit down, and she says, why are you so slow? And I knew it. I knew it. I could tell. I slowed down because I was watching her. I knew she was doing what I was doing. So I was right. She was into me. You can tell. I didn't do it often, but there were some days I got down to 23. Yes, some days I got 23 seconds because I watched them and I knew they weren't paying attention to me, and that's when they say, you just do hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up. And then when you see them shift or do something like that, you know they're switching over. Then they answer a couple calls as fast as you can. And then you watch them. And you see they're someplace else. And sometimes they would look up. If an operator did something, the manager of service would look up and look over. So you knew exactly that they wasn't watching you, so they weren't on you. And you just sit there and say, hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up. And by God, 23 seconds. And they said that I had improved, that I understood. Oh, I understood what being an operator was. Now, when I was answering all the calls, I was basically on my way to being fired. The minute I started hanging up, because that's the only way you can make their quota, is by hanging up, then I became a valued and good employee. Go figure. I tell you. That thing tickles me. Oh yeah, it's been close to 50 years, but I just remember her face. How do you do 23 seconds? She said, hang up on him. I was like, hang up? I said, what? They fire you for this. And she said, you make your numbers. You make your productivity. That's all they want. Let's wrap this up. I tell you. I used to call it the plantation. But next week is going to be fun. I'm going to tell you all about the African burial ground. Just to get it on record. Sometimes I think with my YouTube videos and such, when I'm old and just able to stare, I can pull up I'm always be in my YouTube channel. And I can pull up my YouTube channel and I can sit back and say, yes, I remember that. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Fun times, honey. Whew, wouldn't be funny again for all the tea in China. Or a teenager for that matter. Whew. So, yeah, next week we're going to talk about the African burial ground. Now, the African burial ground in New York City. I heard about it. Mayor Dinkins was the mayor, I believe. I think Reginald Evans was this millionaire businessman. It was almost like 100 successful black business people in New York City. It was a strong thing. And they had started excavating in Lower Manhattan to put up this building. It was supposed to be across the street from 26 Federal Plaza. So though there was already a building up, they wanted to add to it, and it was this lot. So they go in, they dig deep because they're making a big high-rise at 26 Federal Plaza. And they start finding bones. And as was usual, because you find out later on, that section from the water almost up to into Chinatown and beyond was what they called the African burial. It was during the Dutch colonial times. And that's where they buried the Africans that they kidnapped and brought to the New World, New York, New Amsterdam. New York used to be New Amsterdam. Anyway, so they started pulling up these bones. And as per New York usual, just grind them up and put them in the cement. Duh. It's just the African burial ground. All these buildings got crushed bones of the accident from, oh, like I said, across the street from 26 Federal Plaza, going 5 blocks south and all the way through Chinatown. I had the map and stuff. So, as per usual, just grind them up, break them up. But someone noticed it and said, wait a minute. I'm just paraphrasing. Hey, that's a femur. That's a human person leg bone. And then they halted the digging. Then you had to bring in the archaeologists. Dr. Wilson was one of the archaeologists that came through. And they started excavating the remains. Now, the majority of the remains were children. And the reason that they were children is because the Dutch, observing the African people on the continent of Africa, how they carried things, balancing them on their heads, and just the whole way of doing it. So when the Dutch brought them to New Amsterdam, New York, they had them clearing out brushes, and they liked to take the boys. Homosexuality just didn't start. So they brought the boys over, and what they used to do with them, the little ones, is they used to make them carry tree, like almost like tree trunk size branches for the clearing and stuff like that on their heads. And the trees were so heavy, it would push the head down and the spine would go up through the brain and they would drop dead. And then they would throw them in the African burial ground. Like, you know how they do. So, they halted the excavation and they sent the remains to Howard University. And how I found out about it was I had moved to Mount Vernon. I had been there a year. I was with the Mount Vernon Mayor's Task Force. And I met this lady named Irma Sherrock. Oh, so smart. When I took, brilliant, so smart, so pretty, fearless, and almost childlike at the same time. Oh, that woman was, when she died, but she's still here. Her energy, because her energy was such. So she was mad because she was saying that people can come outside the country, come to Mount Vernon, get a home loan, and get a house. But African Americans who have been here for a long time can't get no loans. So, now I'm getting hot. Almost over and I'm just getting hot. Because this fan is doing a good job. I'm getting this cool air. So, Irma wanted to go down, and she was having some landlord issues. So she wanted to go down to housing. And HUD. And HUD is at 26 Federal Plaza. So I go up there with Irma. And I didn't even know why I was there. We went to McDonald's to have lunch. She took out her fake teeth, put it in the napkin, threw the napkin out. We left, had to come back, dig through the garbage, found her teeth. go to the bathroom, wash them off so she can put them back in so we can make this appointment at 26 Federal Plaza, HUD housing. So, we finally go over there. You didn't have to do all this ID and all this kind of stuff then. And Irma meets with them. We go in and out of office. Everybody's shuffling us all over the place. And then it's time for us to leave. Well, we had been shuffled all over the place. We couldn't tell how we came in, what elevator we took, because there was elevators all over the place. Unlike the telephone company. And we came out of the building facing the African burial ground. And there's a big sign, African burial ground. And instantly, I was slammed. I was like, African burial ground. I went over and I read all the stuff. And I was like, holy crap. It's the African burial ground. I remember reading about this. I'm going back years when I was in Greenwich. I remember reading about it. Yes. And I was like, oh, so how do I go in? What do we see? Where are they? And it was like, it's like coming. And I was like, coming. And I went home. So started that bond with me and the African burial ground. All right, let's get some famous stuff going here, because I'm not coming in tomorrow. I'm not walking tomorrow. If you have walked this week to Saturday, you have been active for 3 hours this week. And at our age, a little bit goes a long, 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 long way. A little bit goes a long way. You know? And that's beauty. You know, like when you're young, like you can't get enough. You are often filled, but seldom full when you're young. But it's good to know as you get older, when you get full, you are filled. And when you get filled, you are full. So, there's a wonderfulness about that. Often full and often filled. So I think that's what it does. This age lets you be satisfied. You've been around long enough to find satisfaction. I didn't say comfort, I said satisfaction. Whew. Yeah, y'all. Let me slow it down some. And I know that we're coming through. Yes, January 2nd, I'll be walking for a year. And if you walk with me, you will be too. Tuck in your elbow. Squeeze your gut. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and one for good luck. Woo! Yes, indeed, y'all. Yes, indeed. Suck your gut in. Tuck your elbow in. Knock this 20 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. One for good luck. Ooh, we just increased it to 20. It was at 15. And man, can you feel it. Whew, you can definitely feel it. Yes, indeed, y'all. So, now you got 23 hours. 23 hours. I'm walking. Yes, indeed, I'm walking. Oh, yeah, just for me. Yes. I'm walking. Thank you for the company. Oh, yeah, thank you for the company. I'm walking. So happy to be walking. Happy to be walking. Thank you for the company. I'm walking. Yes, indeed, I'm walking. Oh, so happy to be walking. Thank you for the company. I'm walking. Yes, indeed, I'm walking. Oh, yes, indeed, I'm walking. Thank you for the company. I'm walking. So happy to be walking. Happy to be walking. Thank you for the company. Yes, yes. Thank you for the company. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you for your support. And I hope you're walking with me. Whew. You get those muscles. Slow walking makes muscles. Fast walking does cardio. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And Facebook, YouTube, I'll see you on Monday. Happy holiday. Happy holiday.